So D today is do what works. Do what works. So as the coronavirus really raged on, and there were several weeks there where Carrie, Angela, Matt can't be with us today, but we were all texting each other kind of like everyone is freaking out. And are we saying the right things? Are we doing the right things? I mean, there were days I took so many calls by the end of the day, I couldn't even put a sentence together because we were all scared. And what I observed was some builders, more than others, had a culture of very focused, measured forward movement. And then I noticed that others were more frenetic, reactionary, frantic, not necessarily trusting their people to make good decisions. And so I kind of thought about this as bright, shiny object syndrome, BSOS. And the ones that have been successful through this whole thing are really focused on the D in bold, which is do what works and not get trapped in BS, almost literally OS, bright, shiny object syndrome. So do what works means that we're always clear on the fundamentals of what it takes to sell and market new homes. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't innovate how, and that's why we had to break barriers, right? So that's where using Zoom or Facebook Lives or virtual appointments, we always do some test conversations right before we go live with all of our experts. And Carrie was saying, and I'm sure she'll reiterate this when we bring her on in a few minutes, she was telling the sales team the other day, please, just because your models are back open, please don't let go of the positive things of virtual selling. That's here to stay. And so while that is an innovation of how, the what of doing what works is very, very constant. And it's been constant all the years that I've been involved in this industry. So when the unexpected happens, when crisis hits, how can, if you're a sales leader on the call, or if you're a leader in the organization, or you're just leading yourself as a team member, I encourage you to really get very laser focused on do what works. So if I say to you, focusing on the fundamentals of what sells new homes, I want you to go into the chat box and type in, what do you think some of those fundamentals are? What is a fundamental of selling new homes, marketing new homes, something that has to happen in order for it to come through and come into a sale? All right, so I'm looking over in the chat box. Let's see thank you, Jennifer. Okay, education, data analysis, open mind. Okay, education. All right, features, I love that. Having the right sales team, Noemi, I couldn't agree with you more. Meeting clients in person, yes, but virtual does allow the customer to have choice, right? As opposed, like do it our way, it's the highway. It gives them some choice. Okay, Jen, personalized support, 1000%. That's a great one. All right, I'll give you a couple more minutes. What are some of the fundamentals of selling new homes that we, regardless of what hard left turn takes, we have to say as a team, these are the things we have to execute on. How we do them may change. All right, so what I wrote down for my list is number one, and Carrie teaches this better than anybody out there on the planet, bar none, but number one, there has to be a why. There has to be a why for somebody to buy a new home. There is no sale without a why. So when we're trying to innovate and we're scrambling around, don't forget that even if whether we do it virtually or in person, or we do it digital, or we do whatever we do, at the end of the day, if we aren't communicating a why that connects to the target audience, we don't make sales. Now, the why looks different. And a lot of times in sales folks will really hone in on the price and only focus on price. And I think that's a mistake. Price is an important factor, but it's not the only motivation, right? So it could be a location-based why. It could be a space why, which I think is what is driving a lot of this massive interest in new homes right now, because we are the ones with the open concepts and the giant walk-in closets, not that 50-year-old used resale home, right? We have appropriate space. We have outdoor living spaces. I mean, we have that in droves, all right? It could be a home site why. It could be an overall lifestyle driven why. I want to move to the coast. I want to live in a neighborhood with a built-in pool and walking trails and soccer field, because after all of this has happened, I never ever want to leave the bounds of my neighborhood ever again, but I have to keep my kids busy and entertained and off screens. So I think these whys, that whatever the why is, that is fundamental. We have to do what works, which is tap into the why. Okay. All right. The next one, fundamental, I think, is there will always be a hard limit, a ceiling on what people can afford. Everyone, no matter what they tell you, has a price point. They have a price range in mind. They have a monthly payment that they are comfortable with. I definitely have conversations with builder, marketers, owners, salespeople where they're just convinced that they could talk somebody into a price range if they could just realize the value. But at the end of the day, if they don't qualify for that, if that isn't in their monthly payment budget, it's not going to work. So I know some of you resist communicating and marketing on price, but for me, especially as a digital marketer, I never ever want our clients to pay for clicks that isn't somewhat self-qualified by the web visitor. So regardless of the situation, I'm not saying we sell on price, but I am saying we give people the opportunity in our marketing to self-qualify in or out as one of the criteria. All right, I'm going to just check over to our chat. I don't see Brian. I don't see, I'm like checking your, okay, Kevin, you're having your own conversation over there. I'll let you have it. All right. Number 3, fundamental. Our buyers always want more than whatever number 2 allows. So whatever that range is, they always want more for that. They want what they want, and what they need, and what fits number 2 of their monthly payment comfort range will always be a Grand Canyon between number 2 and number 3. That's a fundamental to selling new homes, and that's why we sell value. Okay. And then lastly, we have to be able to understand their why so that we can explain to them what we have, how we do it that's better, and why we do what we do. And without that transfer of value wrapped up in a personal relationship, we don't have a sale. So that's where when I was getting the phone calls and the text messages and the emails of, some infighting and some chaos in some of the organizations, to me, as all of this struck, to me, what made sense was to go back to what do we know we have to do in order to sell. Now, how do we innovate that to do it differently?